So this is James 4:1, the book of James, chapter 4, verse 1. And here's what it says. It says, what causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? That's verse 1. And the idea here is ultimately you cannot and will not have external conflict. In other words, you won't have conflict out here with people and with situations if you don't have conflict going on inside of you. If you're living an unconflicted life, if you don't have internal conflict, you won't have conflict out here because things that are going on out here are going to affect you. And that it doesn't mean that there's things that won't be wrong or whatever, but you're not going to have conflict. You're not going to have fights. And so as you look at your life, we all have them. We all have conflicts. We all have fights. We all have quarrels. And if we will take the time to stop and slow down before we fully engage in this fight, and back off and go, okay, wait, why is this upsetting me? Why is this bothering me? Why do I feel like I need to fight about this? What a great time to talk about this with the condition of our country. It just feels like all I hear about is constant conflict. But the reality is we're on one side or the other. Either I believe we should wear a mask or we shouldn't. I believe we should quarantine. I believe we shouldn't. I believe that the coronavirus is super scary and wipe the whole world out. Or I think it's a joke. It's real, but we've made it bigger than it needs to be. I'm a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I'm a conservative. I'm a liberal. Right. And so we just start with so many places in our life with what divides us rather than figuring out, let's find a common starting point and go from there. Now I'm off the topic, but anyhow, so we enter into all of these fights because we're so eager to fight for what's going on inside of us, what we feel like we're lacking or what we need. Check it out. So James 4:1, the first verse says, what causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? All right. So if you've got conflict going on inside, you're going to have conflict outside. If you're at peace inside, you're going to bring peace to the situations and the relationships around you. And it goes on. So it says, in other words, if I've got this conflict going on inside, I've got these fights and quarrels going on out here. Verse 2 says, you desire and you do not have, so you murder. Now, does that mean that you physically murder somebody? No, but it means you're going to attack somebody else. You're going to attack their identity and go after them, right? And so you desire and you do not have. So there's something you feel like you're missing and that you deserve. And ultimately, as we read these verses, so I'll continue to read verse 2, you desire and you do not have, so you murder. You covet, which means you want something that belongs to somebody else. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and you do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your own passions. Okay. So, man, there is so much to say here. So you desire and you do not have, so you murder. You covet, you want what belongs to somebody else doesn't belong to you, but you can't obtain it. And so you fight and you quarrel. In other words, you create these conflicts because ultimately there's something that you feel like you're missing in your life. And I was sitting here thinking about this tonight, thinking when it really comes down to the fears we deal with internally, for one, most of us don't even recognize it because we just stuff it and we think this is normal and natural and this is the way it should be and I deserve this. But ultimately that comes down to there are things that are missing in my life. I believe there are things that are missing in my life. Therefore, I have to go get them. And God will never provide those things for me. So it all depends on me, right? And that's where fear comes from. We can go all the way back to the Garden of Eden and what happened with Eve. Satan deceived her that there was something that God was withholding from her, right? And because she felt like she deserved that and needed to know, then she went ahead and ate from the fruit of the tree she was told not to eat from. See, the fear is that there's something missing. There's something that I don't have that I should have. And God's not going to provide it for me. So I got to go get it, which means I have to murder. I have to fight. I have to quarrel to get what I think I need. I'm going to tell you a story. I've got to think about how to tell it very carefully about a conflict that I had in a work situation a while back. This was years ago. And the process that I was able to work through and bring amazing resolution to that conflict in a way that I'd never done before, because I understood this principle that if there's conflict internally, I'm going to have conflict externally. And so I had this conflict And so instead of just jumping right into it and having an argument and a fight and letting it all blow up and get all messy, I backed off. I took the weekend to think about it. I talked to God about it, asked him to search me and show me what was going on inside of me. And then he began to really reveal some deep things to me about myself. Had nothing to do with the other person. And then that made me realize why what the other person had done and said, how they acted and what they said, why that bothered me so much. And so then I was able to go resolve conflict, but really ultimately taking responsibility for my own internal thoughts and beliefs in order to bring resolution to that. So I just wanted to share that with you tonight. James 4:1, hey, you can't have external conflict if you don't have conflict internally. But if you have peace internally, you're going to bring peace to the situations and the relationships around you. So I want you to think about that. We'll probably talk about that some more. That's such a big deal. We need to get that, and we need to be able to figure out how to stop and figure out what's going on inside of us so we can bring peace to the situations around us.